Here begins the song of a king whose crown was rhythm, whose throne was silence, and whose memory echoed louder than a war. The winds of Agata, when rivers speak in tongue. Part 29, The King of Forgotten Drums. Chapter 1, The Isle of Beating Bonest. The river led them to an island veiled in mist and bone. It had no name on any map. Only stories whispered in mother tongues warned of Obiagbal, the island where drums remember. Here, every tree trunk was hollow. Every root, taut as stretched hide. The wind itself moved like fingers on a talking drum. And beneath it all, silence so loud it thundered. At the heart of the island stood a palace built of splintered drums and ivory drumsticks. It belonged to a man, or what remained of him, known only as Obad, the king of forgotten drums. Chapter 2, A king without a beat. Obad was once a mortal, the greatest drummer of the Aro Confederacy, whose rhythms could raise armies or calm storms. But when his kingdom fell to invaders, and his people scattered, he cast his final rhythm into the sky, a beat so perfect it split his soul. In doing so, he became eternal, but broken. Now, he sat on a throne of mute drums, surrounded by the ghost spirits of his old percussion. He welcomed Kaya and her companions not with words, but with a broken rhythm tapped from his fingertips. Greater than, why have you come where echoes fear to linger? Chapter 3, The Drum That Chose Her. Kaya stepped forward with a whispering drum slung on her back, a gift from the river goddess, a relic of sound woven from rain and memory. The moment Obad saw it, his cracked face shuddered. Greater than that drum, he said, speaking aloud for the first time in centuries, was carved from my heartbeat. The whispering drum had once been his final gift to the river, long lost to time. Now, it had found its way to Kaya. He challenged her, greater than, if you claim to carry the future, show me your rhythm. If your soul falters, I shall take back my beat and you will forget your name. Chapter 4, The Trial of the 13 Beats. Kaya faced the trial of 13 beats, each one a test of truth, legacy, pain, joy, love, sacrifice, shame, hunger, memory, rage, grace, silence, and self. Each beat summoned visions, the night her mother drowned, the village that crowned her traitor and savior alike, the faces of those she led and those she left behind. She did not flinch. She did not play perfectly, but she played honestly. And with every beat, the drums of the island awakened, rising in a spiral of thunder, forming a new rhythm the world had never heard. Obad wept. Greater than, you have given me an ending I never knew I needed. Chapter 5, The Crown of Echo. Obad stood, breaking his own drum throne, and took a single ring of carved drumwood. He placed it upon Kaya's head, not as a ruler, but as a bearer of rhythm. Greater than, let this crown remind you, kings build thrones. Drummers build paths. And as he faded into ash and wind, his drums sang their last song. Kaya now carried not just the drum, but a legacy. Chapter 6, What they took with them when they left the island. Yukam carried a pair of twin drumsticks carved with his family's forgotten names. Nkemchika found the rhythm that matched her heartbeat and vowed to teach it to the unborn. Azuna heard, for the first time, the lullaby her mother never got to sing. As they drifted away on a canoe carved from an old bass drum, the island behind them vanished. But the rhythm remained beating faintly in their chests. Because a true drum is never heard. It is remembered.
Here now begins the final song. Let the river speak, for it remembers every whisper, every wound, every wonder. The winds of Agata, when rivers speak in tongue. Was Part 30, The River That Sang Their Name. Chapter 1, The mouth of the river. They came at last to the place where all rivers end, the mouth of Agata, where fresh water meets the sea and names go to sleep. The canoe drifted in silence. Above them, clouds parted. Below, the water shimmered like polished obsidian. Here, the river no longer whispered. It sang. It sang of all who had walked its path, of Kaya, the daughter of dusk, who bore a drum carved from memory. Of Yukam, the quiet one who found his roar. Of Nkemjika, who danced her mother's name into time. Of Azuna, who carried sorrow like a lantern. And it sang of those who never returned, whose bones now bless the riverbed. Chapter 2, the tide that tests at the very mouth of the river, they met the eldest tide, a spirit of neither sea nor stream, but the shifting place in between. She took the form of a woman carved from foam and coral. Her voice sounded like thousands of shells being turned by the waves. "Greater than, you have walked through shadow and silence," she said. "But to become legends, you must now walk into forgetting." The eldest tide held out 4 gourds, one for each of them. "Greater than, drink, and be free. But know this, you will forget your story. The world will remember it." It was the last test. Chapter 3, The Choice. Ukim drank first. Not because he wanted to forget, but because he had seen enough pain. The tide kissed his brow, and he vanished into mist. Nkemjika wept as she drank. But her tears bore no sorrow, only peace. She vanished in a single spin of wind. Azuna hesitated. Then he smiled. "Greater than, let the river carry my story to my mother's bones." He drank. And was gone. Only Kai remained. She held the gourd in her hands. But she did not drink. "Greater than, if all of us forget, who will hold the first beat?" The eldest tide bowed. "Greater than, then you will carry the weight." Chapter 4, The Drum That Became a Story. Kaya returned to the edge of Agata. Alone. She built no monument. She carved no statue. She played. With the whispering drum cradled between her knees, she played every story, every friend, every shadow, every choice. Villagers gathered. Children listened. Elders wept. And from village to village, across rivers and hills, the song spread. Not through paper, but through mouths. From griot to child, elder to dreamer. And so, Kaya became a name not bound by blood, but by rhythm. Chapter 5, The Final. Many moons later, in a hut by the water's edge, an old woman sat drumming softly. When asked her name, she smiled. "Greater than, I've been called many things. But once, I was Kaya." And then she closed her eyes and drummed one final rhythm. The river rose quietly and sang her name. Epilogue. When rivers speak in tongue, and so ends the tale of the winds of Agata. But listen closely when the night is still, and the water ripples just right, you may hear a drum in the distance, and that speaks not in words, but in the names of those who dare to remember.